Is my mic turned on? Okay. Yeah, it is. Cool. So hello. I'm Ari, slightly sick, which is why my voice sounds so dead. I decided to be a nerd and read my story. It's fan. And I have nothing better to do, and as you can see these tags right here, you know that this whole story is absolutely sad. But yeah, that's what I'm doing now. First, we're gonna read my introduction called Hi. Wait, no, I shouldn't. I'm gonna go here. Oh my. I've increased in the ranks, y'all. And I'm currently in 224 of depressing. Be proud of me. Okay, so here we go. Hi. Oops. Hello there. Seems like I may have fixed my issue, so I'll proceed with my OC's backstory. What was that? What is that? What is... What? Whoa, what? Okay, what? What is happening? Oh, how did that happen? Okay, there's way too many characters, but the first ones who appear are Haley and Josh and Crouch. Don't ask me why I named him that. It's a weird name, just shush. You can get to know more about them from my YouTube channel, but be warned, the memes I've done have spoilers, so please proceed with caution. Cool. What am I doing? I don't know, I don't care, I started the stream anyway, so... Here we go. This story contains a lot of dark themes and topics nearing the end. I will put a warning in front of such chapters. Some of them include self-harm, death, gore, attempts, depression, giving up children, abuse, and abandoning children. Please remember to read the titles of chapters before reading. I do not wish to hurt anyone emotionally or physically, and I'm only making these stories to be creative. I apologize in advance if I end up hurting you. I hope you enjoy, ? Yeah, sure. No, I'm not enjoying this story. I hate this story. The sky was a pale bluish pink, and the grass was a bright green. Ew. Haley walked up to the edge of the cliff. She could see everything she had worked hard to create, and a small smile creeped up her face. That's creepy. It creeped up to her face. She spent a full month constructing a simple guarded area for her newfound kingdom, and it looked nice and cozy, just the way she wanted. Let me explain some logistics here, yeah? So, in this here kingdom that she has created, it's actually in another dimension. It's in another dimension that she's not part of. And yeah, shit happens. I did not mean to curse. Oh no. It's okay. Yeah. We did it, she said proudly, admiring the view. Josh had been walking up the hill for some time, and when he spotted Haley staring dreamily at the castle, he smiled softly and folded his arms. Done with your little opening, Haley? Josh teased, pretending to look annoyed. Haley spun around, smiled lightly, and copied his stance. My openings are amazing, she huffed, swishing her tail against the grass. Josh rolled his eyes. Whatever you say, sweetheart. Haley rolled her eyes at his sarcastic tone, flicking her head back to the view. I don't get what this means. Josh seemed to notice her, looking slightly upset, and paused for a bit before walking to her. Hey, I didn't mean it. Yeah, I'm stopping the stream. The stream was a mistake. What is it? What am I doing? Exactly. I need to close the door. Yeah. Okay, nobody has joined the stream yet. Why am I sniffing so loudly? It's okay. Hey, I didn't mean it, he smiled, gesturing for a hug. Haley huffed, turning away. Haley felt 2 arms wrapping around her. She turned her head slightly, smiling when she saw him hugging her. I know you didn't. She hugged him back, enjoying the warmth he gave her. They awkwardly hugged for a while before Josh let go. Well, wanna head down to see our new home? He shifted his feet slightly. Sure. Okay, that's the first chapter, yeah. Haley smiled at the two of them. Haley smiled, and the two of them walked down the hill, taking in the view. Oh no, my phone's at 5%, it's okay. They continued to walk in silence as they approached the large gates. There was a smaller door that they could go through, locked with a keypad that only they knew the password to. 19-08-XX. I don't have a specific year for this timeline, so do whatever you want with the XX. They walked in and weaved their way through the small marketplace. Fruit shops, blacksmiths, and clothing stores were set up first. The two of them carried on walking through until they made it to the palace. Josh pushed the doors open, and they were greeted by a large open space. 2 staircases near the sides, leading to opposite wings of the place. A large chandelier and a cozy fireplace was set up next to a large window that had an amazing view of the lake nearby. The marble floor was pure white, and they could see their reflection in it. Haley smiled. They really did finally do it. They got away. They escaped the system. She looked back up at Josh and without warning proceeded to hug him as tightly as she could, smiling as brightly as she could while she was at it. Josh hugged her back. They broke off, held hands, and just stood there, still unable to believe that they did it. They came from another place. That kingdom didn't allow the prince to marry who they chose, and didn't allow the sorceress to marry at all. Yeah, I'm taking the medicine cat thing from Warriors. We don't talk about my secrets, yeah? The two met when they were younger, their parents asking them to meet as they would be working together when they grew older. Josh took a liking to Haley right away, enjoying their conversations and being with her in general. Her ideas were always so interesting to listen to, and that smile of hers. God, he loved it. Haley liked being around him too, just not as much as she'd like to admit. She tried her best to hide everything, knowing all too well that she'd get kicked out if anyone found out. Then, by chance, she met a strange demon. He was wandering around the forest as she was walking through. His fur was fluffy and dark red, his horns were small but noticeable, his wings were nearly entirely covered by his fur. Hello? The demon turned around, smiling slightly. My sincere apologies. I must have gotten lost while trying to get back. Can you help me? I do you a favor in return. The way he said that last bit threw Haley off, but she couldn't just leave him here. He'd get caught, and probably killed. Sure. I think I have something that could help you get back. She rummaged around her bag. Got it. She pulled out a sheet of paper. It was yellowish due to its old age, but she could still read the writing. She wasn't born with power or magic. Means the same thing, Ariana. What are you doing? But she took a liking to sorcery and didn't think she'd fall in love. She was begrudgingly made apprentice to the sorceress, and she didn't mind the looks that the others gave her. The demon looked at her, tilting his head slightly. So, before I leave, what's the favor you'd want? His voice snapped her out of it. I'm not too sure, sir. Haley looked up at the demon. He laughed. You can call me Grouch. He reached out one of his hands. Haley hesitated before shaking it with an uncomfortable smile. My name's Haley. He nodded. She looked at the sheet of paper. Yep, still got it. She started to read out what was written, and Grouch looked at her, smiling warmly. A portal opened up behind him. Oh. Well, he stood up. Thank you. It was nice meeting you, Haley. When you know what you want in return, feel free to look for me. He walked through it before she could say anything. A favor. Haley? Haley shook her head. Josh still held her hand, and she remembered where she was. Sorry, Josh, I was just spacing out. Haley let the words trail off. He squeezed her hands tighter. It's okay. Wanna explore? Haley nodded, and the two of them went all over the palace. There were way too many staircases. It made their heads spin. Finally, they were able to collapse and take a break. Oh my word, whose idea was it to have so many staircases? Haley sighed as she flopped onto the soft, comfy mattress. Josh walked around to the other side, flopping down on his stomach next to her. Dunno, he mumbled into the pillow. I give up. He mumbled into the pillow. Haley stared at the ceiling, the smooth walls, the pretty carpet. It was better than she could have imagined. She turned to face Josh, but he had already fallen asleep. She looked over at the clock. 9 p.m. and he's already asleep? She turned back to face him, smiling slightly and stepping off the bed. She walked over to the bathroom and locked the door. She looked at her necklace. It was simple, a nice purple necklace in the shape of a heart. She smiled again. She looked into the mirror. A favor. By the way, in the story, that purple necklace gets passed on to the next sorceress. But in Haley's case, it gets passed on to her daughter because her daughter was born with magic that somehow got transferred from the purple necklace. So yeah. Call the necklace a charm, if you will. Pancakes. Yes, this is my favorite chapter. It was one of my favorites to write and is one of my favorites. Don't ask me why, but it is. Yeah. Time skip. Haley opened her eyes, wincing as the light basically slapped her across the face. Here we go again. Just gonna breathe. 1, 2, 3. Time skip. Haley opened her eyes, wincing as the light basically slapped her across her face. She slowly got up, staring blankly at the walls. The curtains were wide open, and Josh was nowhere to be found. She yawned and slowly got off the bed, freezing slightly as her feet touched the cold marble floor. She walked over to the bathroom, turning on the tap and rinsing her face. She looked into the mirror. Something isn't right. Foreshadowing. She stumbled over to her children's room, knocking slightly before opening it. Both her children were asleep. She walked everywhere, looking for her husband. Not here. She closed the kitchen. She closed the kitchen door. She walked back to her children's room and sat down in one of the chairs. Venus started to move and slowly got up. Oh. Sorry, I'm tired. Venus yawned and slid off the bed to hug her mother. Haley held her tightly, the uneasy feeling getting stronger. Venus started to doze off and Haley poked her cheek gently. Venus squirmed and took a step back. Mommy, is breakfast ready? Her stomach growled. I'm hungry. Haley stood up, shaking her head. I just came here to see you. Venus smiled and hugged her mother. Venus smiled and hugged her mother again. Haley picked her up and walked out of the room. Mommy, am I going to help you cook? Venus stumbled into the kitchen. Haley turned around and smiled. Haley turned around and smiled at her. Well, if you want to. Venus nodded and walked over to Haley, tiptoeing to see what she was making. Pancakes? Haley nodded and Venus climbed onto one of the stools to watch the pancakes cook. Haley walked to the fridge to get chocolate chips to add. into a few pancakes for Venus. Venus smiled when she saw the chocolate chips, making Haley laugh a little. For me? Haley nodded. Yep, just for you. Venus smiled and helped Haley mix the chocolate chips into the pancake batter. I don't know how to make pancakes. Haley poured the batter into the pan and waited for it to finish cooking. Mommy, is Sprinkles and Dad awake yet? Venus asked as she put the stool back to its original place. I can't write. I can't read either. I don't know, Venus. What the heck? I don't know, Venus. Could you be a dear and go get Sprinkles for me? Yes, I named one of my characters Sprinkles. Shush. I'll go get your father. Venus nodded and stumbled out of the kitchen. Haley placed the last pancake on top of the stack and went to place the pancakes on the table. Mommy! Sprinkles squealed as she tumbled into the dining room. She landed with a thud and sat up immediately, laughing. Haley never knew how her daughter could fall and not end up crying, but she shrugged it off as being her powers and picked her up. Venus walked into the dining room and sat down next to her sister. Mommy, where's Daddy? Venus asked, staring at the empty seat. Haley panicked for a second, but held it in. Why did I make this thing? He's just doing work right now, Haley said as she began to eat. She didn't want to. Something felt weird about that day. She ate slowly, thinking about certain things. She slowly started getting lost in her own thoughts. Where is he? Did he get lost? Maybe he went for a walk? No, that doesn't seem right. Mommy! Mom? Mom! Venus was staring at her. Haley blinked. Yes, dear? Sprinkles let out an exasperated sigh. We've been trying to get your attention for ages. Papa came back. Haley nodded slowly, not wanting to respond. She continued to eat in silence as she kept thinking. So he didn't get lost. But where was he? Haley blinked and quickly ate her food. She picked up the dishes and started to clean them. She quickly walked back up to her room and spotted Josh sitting down next to the window. Honey, where'd you go? I was worried sick, Haley said as gently as she could. She didn't want him to think she was upset at him, but she wanted him to know her concern. He turned around, a look on betrayal. He turned around, a look of betrayal on his face. Haley, sweetheart, why didn't you tell me? Yes, I'm moving around a lot. Yeah. Haley stepped back. What do you mean? Why didn't you tell me what it cost to make this kingdom? Bitterness laced his tone and Haley shrunk. She'd forgotten about that part of the bargain. Josh, I don't want to hear your excuses, Haley. Tell me, Josh snapped. Haley stepped back, tears threatening to spill. I forgot about that end of the bargain, Haley muttered, trying to hold down her tears. Josh raised his hand, shaking. Haley closed her eyes, bracing herself to feel the pain. Josh placed his hand on her cheek. Tears kept going down. Haley opened her eyes, crying when she saw him. Her heart broke. She held his hand. I'm so sorry. He let go. Save it. Say sorry to whoever you're going to give up. I'm leaving once you do, he said, turning away. Haley stood there, stunned. He got back up. He got back up again and walked by her. Haley dropped to her knees and started to sob quietly. Mom? Mommy! Venus ran in and kneeled down next to her mother. Haley stopped and looked up at her, smiling. Mom, what are you doing? Mom, why is Dad upset? Venus hugged her mother, hugging tighter when she asked about her father. Haley hugged her back and stood up with Venus in her arms, still hugging her. Venus, where's the sound of a door opening in the main hallway made her freeze. 3 people walked in, 2 standing tall, and the third cliffhanger yell. Warning, this chapter contains a scene where someone gives up their child. Please don't proceed with this chapter unless you are perfectly okay with that. Thank you. You have been warned. How nice it is to see you again, yes? Grouch smiled and sat down. Haley hugged Venus tighter. Bring her out, Grouch ordered, and 2 men pushed Sprinkles over to her. Mommy! Sprinkles ran over and hugged Venus. Don't let them take us. Sprinkles was crying and Venus started to tear up as well. No, I can't. But I don't want to go back. They'll force me to. No. Venus. I have to. Haley took a deep breath. Well, who am I going to take? Grouch growled, growing impatient, eyes flaring. Haley closed her eyes, stood still, and picked Venus up. Here. Haley tried her best to hide her fears as she walked up to him, her 2 children screaming at each other. Mom, no, Venus! Sprinkles couldn't move. They kept her still. She started crying even more. Venus turned back to Grouch. Mommy, was all she was able to say before they made her fall asleep. No! Sprinkles was released as Grouch picked Venus up and left with his 2 men. Venus. Mom! Sprinkles kneeled down and held her feet close to herself. Josh walked in. His face was cold and bitter, but tears were running down. And I thought you loved them. Josh turned around and Haley walked after him. Take me back. Haley stopped in her tracks. Back? Yes, take me back. I don't care anymore. How could you? Josh spun around, his hand clutching his left part of his chest. I don't love you anymore, he spat out, tears still running. Haley felt her heart break even more. Josh walked up to her. Take me back. Haley sighed shakily. She didn't want him to leave. She smiled softly, one last tear going down her cheek. Fine, she mumbled. She did whatever she needed to and waited until the portal opened up. With one strong blast of air, the portal opened, before Josh could walk through, she ran over, grabbing his hand and hugged him one last time. He stood still for a while before hugging back lightly and stepping back. He was crying again, and Haley turned her head away. Goodbye, sweetheart, he said, a tear falling as he smiled at her. She stepped into the portal and waved goodbye. He stepped into the portal and waved goodbye. Haley stood there. She didn't know how to respond. She knelt down and sat there, staring at the ground. Goodbye, Josh, she mumbled as more tears came crashing down. She sobbed on the floor, holding on to herself tightly. Sprinkles started to wail. Dad! She wept on the floor, silently shaking. Haley wrapped her arms around her, whispering sweet nothings to her. Her husband was gone. Her daughter was gone. Okay, so let me make this clear right now. In the beginning parts of this, Haley and Sprinkles, they're both twins in a sense, and They are around the age of 6. They're around the age of 4 to 5 to 6 or 7. So basically 4 to 7. So they're in that range, and yeah. So that's traumatic. In this scene, though, she's only, I believe, 5 years old. Yeah, I made her 5. Sprinkles fell asleep in her mother's arms. Haley carried her back to her room, laying her down and kissing her forehead gently. Sprinkles squirmed a little but fell back to sleep. Haley walked back to her room slowly. Her mind was replaying that scene again and again. She stumbled into the bedroom and began crying bathroom and began crying silently. I'm so stupid. Her thoughts began clouding and she stumbled back onto bed, clutching onto the pillows tightly. More tears were streaming down as she held the pillow, remembering the first time she got here. She held on to her necklace, cussing at herself for being so foolish. I love you so much, she cried into the pillow. She kept whispering to herself as tears wouldn't stop coming down. She eventually fell asleep, one last tear streaming down. Loneliness. This part might be a little sad, so if you don't want to feel smacking you in the face, proceed with caution. Haley opened her eyes slowly. The sunlight was piercing through the windows, and I took a screenshot? I did not take a screenshot. What just happened? I've been streaming for a little while. That. Nobody's joined my stream yet, yeah. She got up and rubbed her eyes. They were swollen from the swollen. They were swollen. Swollen? Swollen? They were swollen. They were swollen. I don't know. They were swollen. They were swollen. They were swollen from the amount of crying she did last night. She yawned and quickly went to the bathroom before anyone could see her. She washed her face, the cold water making her shiver. She couldn't remember much about yesterday, except for... She blinked. Her daughter and husband were gone. I mixed that up. They left her. She's all alone now. Just Sprinkles and her. She shook her head. She couldn't think about this now. She walked towards Sprinkles' room and opened the door slightly. Sprinkles was still fast asleep. She closed the door and walked into the kitchen, grabbing a cup of cold water to freshen her up a little. Mama, Sprinkles yawned as I did not take a screenshot. That's an iPhone. I've got a different... I'm just gonna ignore that. Sprinkles yawned as she stumbled into the kitchen. Haley turned around a little too quickly and she almost spilled her water all over Sprinkles. Oh no! Sprinkles smiled lazily and walked over to the counter. She placed a hand onto Haley's hand. Mama, I'm hungry, she said, her stomach growling. Haley froze for a little. Sprinkles reminded her of Venus. Tears were threatening to spill, but she held it in and blinked quickly to get rid of the tears. What do you want to eat, sweetheart? Haley asked, washing her cup in the sink. Sprinkles paused for a little while, thinking. Mama, can we eat cereal? I want the chocolate one. Sprinkles squealed. Haley smiled, nodded, and headed over to the pantry to get the cereal. She rummaged through the stacks of cereal and crackers before getting to the one Sprinkles wanted. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna stop reading this because I don't want to spoil everything. So, if you want to read my book, you can find it on the... What's the video called? Yes, the Endless Despair speed paint where I put in Billie Eilish's Bellyache, yeah. You can find my Wattpad and the story in there. Okay, yeah, nobody watched the stream, but it's probably gonna be up for a few hours before I unlist it and put it into the stream section. So yeah, this was my take at reading my own story. This is me cringing and failing at reading. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you some other time. Yeah, bye bye.